It's been 20 years. 2 decades of jokes about sand. 20 long years of wishing I could wish these feelings away. Pack your things, faithful viewer. We're talking about Attack of the Clones 20 years later.
Thousands of 35-year-old men waiting days, even months, for just a taste of George Lucas's table scraps. So what's going on here? You've got a little future nerd in here?
Yes, future nerd, future Jedi.
When is he due?
June 27th, 6 weeks.
Wow. That's the last time you'll ever see female genitalia.
It's crazy to think that little fetus in there is almost 20 years old and probably making video essays about why Claude gives the best head. After doing a video on both Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith anniversaries, it feels like I just have to say something about Episode 2. The dorky, angsty middle child of the already wonky prequel trilogy. And look, there is absolutely nothing new I can say about this movie regarding how it could have been better. We could be here all day, you've heard it all. If I really wanted to, I could bust out the red flannel shirt and tell you how I could have single-handedly fixed this movie easy. Exhibit A, you make Coleman T-Rex Trevor the main character. I think perhaps the most interesting thing about Episode 2 all these years later is really just how much of its reputation has fluctuated over the last 2 decades. Today, it's largely considered the worst Star Wars movie, but even that gets muddled with how much you hear about people hating the sequels and the spin-offs, but there was a time, a very brief time, where Attack of the Clones was seen as a bit of a step up. Not a large one, but a step up nonetheless from the Phantom Menace. Just ask these little fetuses.
It was the best movie I've ever seen.
Special effects was great.
It showed more emotion.
Jedi's people started fighting each other, but I didn't get who won in the ending.
Oh, you just know that kid's still rattled from the bomb. This whole movie sits at a weird place for me, as it was the first Star Wars movie released that I was really conscious enough to anticipate. So I was still a super diaper baby when Episode 1 came out, but Episode 2 I could join in on the hype a little. Here's some random ass real shit I remember. Welcome to another Tales from Walmart with Junko. 20 years ago, I guess, the Walmart by me made a little throne of Pepsi 12-packs where they were promoting Attack of the Clones, and these 2 grown men adorned in Jedi robes were fighting with plastic lightsabers right by it and handing out Star Wars swag. Not knowing any better, I thought, yep, this is what every day's gonna be like for the rest of my life. And to remember it, I got a bag of Lays that came with this puzzle piece of Mace Windu. Pretty neat, right? That alone now meant I had achieved a true Jedi status. You collect all of these bad boys and put them together and you get a whole Attack of the Clone... No, wait a minute, that can't be right. There's supposed to be one right there in the center. It's gone.
Master, maybe you didn't eat enough Frito Lay chips.
Lost his Lay's puzzle piece he has. How embarrassing. No. I had all the pieces, as if I could ever make such a mistake. Never. Just as I questioned how much of those 2 dudes having a duel of the fate in between a woman's clothing rack and the Walmart garden center was normal, I always watched Episode 2 questioning my own feelings. Maybe I'm just too young to get this stuff. Yeah, it's my fault these Naboo love scenes make me feel extremely embarrassed. I'm too damn stupid. The dialogue isn't weird and wonky. I'm just dumb. Of course, Episode 2, being what most would consider a bad movie, ended up being one of the goofiest secrets hidden in plain sight, second only to my man Sheev being a Sith Lord. And don't get me wrong, as a kid, I remember loving it, particularly the obvious ways it mirrored the original trilogy in Empire. I liked how Beep Boop had propulsion rockets. Everything on Geonosis, from escaping execution to the big Jedi arena fight, rattled my senses to the core. And I remember Shmi's death really choking me up, thinking, What if that happened to my mom? A lot of the good graces Attack of the Clones initially had largely seemed to come from a few things. One, it's evidently a much darker and more adult chapter relative to the Phantom Menace. A lot of it seemed like a direct response to the little kid adventure movie vibes Episode 1 awkwardly tried to juggle. Here you got decapitations, genocide, mutilation, seedy street life, and blatant sex icons, like Wat Tambor. Second, while releasing only 3 years apart, by 2002 even Phantom Menace felt like it was showing its age a bit. Whereas Attack of the Clones and its action scenes felt way more visceral, they had a lot more pizzazz. There were pockets of episode 2 where it really felt like a modern blockbuster, like Star Wars was starting to find its footing in the era of big budget 2000s flicks. There were a lot of exciting movies coming out at this time, so much so that Star Wars began to feel a little antiquated and behind the curve in comparison to things like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Spider-Man, Stuart Little 2. And there was a lot going on in 2002, and episode 2 marked the first time a Star Wars movie wasn't the highest grossing movie of the year, and that really speaks to where the series was at in the public eye. Sure, it was still a big movie, but it was no longer the biggest touchstone event, and I don't even think all of that can be blamed on the Phantom Menace. I think Star Wars was just being overshadowed. That being said, Attack the Clones with its large-scale battle of Geonosis, the beginning of the Clone Wars, it seemed like the prequel trilogy was ramping up a little too late. People say this a lot, but the prequels really would have benefited from abridging episode 1 and 2 together. To me, both these films are missing a vital element the other one has. Episode 1 really should have laid out more of the Clone Wars groundwork and the relationship between Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme, while I feel episode 2 could have used a little more of episode 1's whimsical tone. These two portrayals of Anakin represent these jarring extremes, and Attack of the Clones Annie just ends up being largely unlikable. Every time I watch this movie, it's always the same. For a good moment or two, I'll be like, hey, wait a minute, this ain't so bad, some of this stuff's actually... And then it will just completely fall apart in the same scene. Like this picnic scene where Anakin's like, yo, fascism though? I kinda like it, but it starts with them sharing their body count and Anakin has to be like, bitch, didn't you read the Jedi Quest books? I'm still a virgin. And he gets mad when Padme talks about how she used to skinny dip and have orgies in Gunga City. Attack of the Clones just ends up being way too brooded and too fast. There was so much missed opportunity, especially with splitting these three main characters apart again. I see what Lucas was trying to do by showing Padme and Anakin visit their respective homeworlds, but we already know this stuff about them, and their differences in upbringing could have easily been explored on an adventure throughout the movie. Having Obi-Wan there with them kind of privy to the fact that something is going on would have been a bit more compelling, and it's something that the Clone Wars would even later explore. As if there wasn't enough bizarre decisions to choose from, one that always irked me was this deleted scene of Mace Windu consoling Obi-Wan right before he leaves for Kamino.
Master, we should not have been given this assignment. I fear Anakin will not be able to protect the Senator.
Why?
He has an emotional connection with her. It's been there since he was a boy. Now he's confused, distracted.
Obi-Wan, you must have faith that he will choose the right path.
Yes, Master.
Why was this scene deleted? It really bothers me because not only is it way better than the Yoda on a hover chair scene they replaced it with, but it's this nice moment where you get Obi-Wan venting his worries with Mace Windu consoling him and even extending his faith in Anakin. That optimistic view the Jedi carry eventually lead to their downfall. This is like one of the only scenes where we learn Windu isn't a complete dick in the whole prequel trilogy and it was deleted. Perhaps it was for runtime, but there was plenty that they could have cut instead. For years, George Lucas held off on making the prequels for the same reason we still don't have Little Italy 2. The technology just isn't there yet. Well, technology caught up, and as cool as these battle and Geonosis scenes look, it was inevitable it would age pretty poorly, especially considering that even for its time, some of the stuff was questionable. As much as I love that slap of Shrek's ass for a CGI pair, it's hard not to just wonder what a grittier, more balanced take on these scenes would look like. Nothing ages me faster than going back and watching this movie and seeing it slowly morph into Spy Kids 5D scratch and sniff Dexter's ass. At the time, a full CGI Yoda was a pretty cool sight to behold. Now he sticks out like a sore thumb. This one fight where he pulls out a lightsaber and swings around was some of the most hype as shit initially, and now it's considered emblematic of how the prequels misunderstood Star Wars. It's not like these complaints weren't around at release, but you can definitely tell the general consensus for Attack of the Clones has changed drastically in the last 20 years. The boost in public opinion Episode 2 got for its cutting-edge special effects and seemingly being a step up from Phantom Menace was pretty short-lived. Like the prequels in general, I think one can appreciate the overarching story while the actual film itself feels like a mess. Recently, in the new LEGO Star Wars, they seemingly did the impossible. They got the Clone Wars voice actors to redeliver these lines with a new direction that just made it come across so much better, with Anakin being portrayed more like a confident and charming knight overstepping his boundaries a bit. Tweaks like that probably could have gone a long way in making Attack of the Clones more digestible without having to literally alter the entire plot. There's a good reason 20 years on people still want to fix this movie. As a result, today Attack of the Clones is largely seen as a puzzle, and one that so many want to solve. That's right, faithful viewer. It's done. According to the prophecy, forming these pieces together would unlock a secret hollow message of the Sith that says, "Eat more Lays, What? That's it? From this point on, we're eating Ruffles instead. Hit it! Attention! 3 Ruffles for everyone in the Camino dining hall.
Somebody say Ruffles?
The banking clan will gladly provide some Ruffles.
Annie, I brought you some Ruffles. She has Ruffles? Well, go get some Ruffles or, Funyuns. I hate cheddar Ruffles. I wanted sour cream and onion. This guy just can't seem to take some chips.
Greetings, my lord. It seems the Ruffles were a success.
Yes. They don't know Ruffles is owned by Frito Lay.
But I didn't get who won in the ending.